when I started in 2015, every year we by default grew almost 250%. Like first year was 7 crores, then went to 23 crores, then 83 crores, then 200 crores, then 400 crores. And we didn't know how is this happening.
Today is a very interesting day. We have Ankit with us. Jivraj, why don't you take it up from here?
I was going to ask how many of you would love to get paid to actually sleep, because that was one of their most important campaigns. But we've already set ground for that. But I think one of the most interesting aspects of Wakefit as a company is the fact that they've beaten incumbents in an industry which was supposed to be very, very rigorous, very competitive, mostly offline, mostly unorganized. And all of those things they've solved for. So thank you so much for joining us. I think we want to dive deeper into all of those learnings. Wakefit is a 1,000 crore brand. It's been 10 years in the making. They're the second largest mattress company in the country today. So lots to learn, and hopefully we can dive deeper into it.
Thank you. My pleasure, yeah.
Awesome. Where I want to kick this off is understand that, a lot of the students here, when thinking of businesses, wonder how to enter an industry which is so alien to them, right? Like, and you were an engineer working a job, figuring out what to do, and you entered in a mattress industry which you probably knew very little about. So if you can just take us through memory lane, understand how you figured out the nuances of this industry and then got into revolutionizing it, I think that'll be a great head start for a lot of people thinking of disrupting industries they know very little about.
I was talking to one of the event at DHL, and they happened to ask me, saying, कोई young बच्चा इसको बुलाते हैं, and then he should speak something about entrepreneurship. So I just went there, and when I had to go there, I just googled up something, and then I learned something interesting at that point in time. It said, to be an entrepreneur, what do you require? Just 3 eyes. Typical standard MBA way of saying 3 eyes. The standard is it is idea, it is investment, and I think the third important part is being idiot, right? So I think most of the startups that you'll find are full of people which are successful, are full of idiots. Why idiots? Because they just don't know what is working, what is not working, long-term strategies, investment ideas, like how to build teams, how to run show, how to do production, how to do accounting. This is all nothing that any of the entrepreneur knows. They all learn it on the go. And the most important part is, it's the learning that can only happen when you're on the go. You can never be very strategized from the beginning, because one thing is very important for us to learn. I'll give you a real-time example. So I was talking to in one of the podcasts, and they asked me, how do you see competition? Specific, very similar question to he's asking. I said, the biggest threat that I have today to my business in either of the industry, whether it's mattress, furniture, decor, is the person either sitting in this room or sitting in some garage thinking of some wild ideas. He has no clue of how to strategize things, where to invest money, how to build a great product, how to build a great team. It is just an outcome of just you being a fool or an idiot. So same thing happened to me. I did my first startup, it failed miserably. Did for 8-9 months. Then I went into depression. 3-4 months it took me to come out of it. Joined a pasta company. Somehow somebody recruited me, saw some potential. Again, 8-9 months into the job, I saved about 8 lakh, 9 lakh rupees again in my, and then again started. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. It's given. But when I started, this time, all that I had was, again, being an idiot was important. So I was an idiot again. But I was very humble and very, very learning oriented. So I think for whatever I built, I never estimated that I can really beat Sleepwell, Kurlon, Peps, or any big brand out there. It worked. We stayed very humble throughout the journey. We kept on learning every day, every pivot. In fact, the worst year in the Wakefit's life was 2022. We were about to die. And after years of success, and we were at some point in time, there was a startup called Casper in US.
Yeah.
And they were $1 billion valued at some point in time, right? And 2021, we had beaten Casper at its valuation. And 2022, we were down to ashes. We were at a point where we didn't know how will we survive. So I think it's just a journey. It makes you very humble. Just stay humble, stay focused, be crazy, be an idiot constantly, and just keep on doing it every time on the go.
So, and one thing we tell our students is to always think of founder market fit, right? You have some background experience in that, your family was in that, your cousins are doing something similar. So you have some moat, right? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's definitely a privilege. If in any way you have somebody either mentoring you from the similar background, or you have gone through that journey, or your parents are going through that journey, it's always best to learn it first, and because they'll at least tell you what to not do. The most important part, and one of the a successful startup journey is that they know exactly what to not do, and they learn it over the period of time. So if somebody has learned it and passing that wisdom to you, you should be very grateful. But look at any of the successful startups. Look at the Zepto guys. Look at the Zomato. Look at me. Look at any guy who's mildly or greatly successful. I don't think their parents, their families, their friends knew what they were doing. It's a chance that happens, but if it happens, please utilize it. It's of lot of value.
Correct.
I think structurally, when you were starting, right, so many things were against you. And I was reading up and I figured that, this is a high AOV purchase. So to convince the customer that give me, okay, 10, 15,000 for a mattress, buy it online from me when most of the mattresses were getting sold offline. And also, this is a low frequency category in a venture parlance, right? Non-investable because you'll buy a mattress perhaps 1 in 5-7 years. How did you tackle some of this early journey, right? Like when the chips were against you?
In fact, it was ulta. So when you look at it from an entrepreneur mindset, right, you will see everything working in your favor because you live in so there's a term called fool's paradise. Like you build your own paradise and everything is optimistic in that world, right? Any opportunity that people knock, they generally find that a lot of things that you learn while you are on the go on it, right? For me, when I looked at this mattress industry, I knew only one thing. And this was an experiential. I'm sure a lot of these ideas you will get when you are experiencing things by yourself. Like, for example, I met one of the person for an interview and she happened to mention that she experienced a bamboo towel that, it basically absorbs a lot of moisture. And then there's some order issue that, is able to solve and things like that. And she was very convinced and started building on it, right? Now, towel industry, look at it, it sells in kilos. So there's a place in Maharashtra, it sells towels in kgs. But she found an opportunity in that towel. And towel is sold in every nook or corner. You ask anybody, he'll give you a towel for $300, $500, right? But she found an opportunity saying, this towel actually absorbs better. And now I know 2 or 3 companies in that sector, they're doing 30 to 50 crores of top line, but just selling some bamboo or a different type of towel. In my journey, if I relate to it, what I saw is I bought a mattress for myself and I was from a foam background. I knew by what kgs of the weight of the mattress, how much it should cost. The mattress was about 13,000 rupees a pair. And this guy, I said, वो बोला आपसे पैसे नहीं लूंगा. मैंने कहा नहीं आप गाड़ी भेज दो, I'll pay whatever you write. He gave me a check of 10,000 rupees. I was like, इतना पैसा? By weight it was about 5,000 rupees. So that got me intrigued, saying, a 5,000 rupees product getting sold at 30,000 rupees, something is off. Because simple foam plus cover. So that's a fool paradise, right? Everything is like, yaar, ye to ekdam hi kharab hai. So when I started researching about it, I realized that, it's once in a 7 years, 10 years purchase. So generally, if you notice all of these mattress shops, you'll don't find customers inside. Generally, most of the people would either be on their phone or watching TV. Because this is a categories like this. You don't find retailers occupied. When I did more and more research, I figured almost 40% of the overall sales price goes to these middlemen. Plus some schemes, plus something. So you, just like we paid a lot of taxes. So these mattress companies were paying almost 50% as tax equivalent to these supply chain people who were managing the distribution. It was a clear-cut answer saying was we have to just disrupt the pricing. Online, Amazon was happening that point in time. Just boom, and it happened. By the way, I'll extend this question by an answer. And I've built 3 categories by now. Started with mattresses, went into furnishing. Some of you mentioned pillow, protector, bed sheets. And then we eventually got into furniture. Furniture also multiple categories, from engineered wood, solid wood, sofa. And I've seen this pattern by looking at 8-10 categories. If PMF has to happen, it happens out loud. Like you would know from day when it is happening. But when you're constantly looking for PMF, right, it has not happened. Like, I'll give you a rather better example. When I started in 2015, I didn't know nothing about marketing, nothing about supply chain. It was just happening organically. We built this price point, problem solve, better quality matters at an affordable price because you are online, you are disrupting the supply chain. Every year, we by default grew almost 250%. Like first year was 7 crores, then went to 23 crores, then 83 crores, then 200 crores, then 400 crores. And we didn't know how is this happening. हम हर 3 महीने में ऐसे इतना बड़ा हो जाता था कि यार क्या हो रहा है. And every 6 months we were just changing factories. The biggest advantage is we're running factories to solve the supply chain problem. Imagine 6 months, I'll shift it. And I was such a big fool, I started a mattress factory on 2nd floor. So my first factory was 2nd floor. I remember first time truck came, it was so stupid. I got a foam truck and then I thought, ये ऊपर कैसे जाएगा? It was literally so bad, yaar. Like imagine the Like you guys are so smart. At that point of time, how dumb was I? So you move from A to B to C D, and then you don't realize that things are moving so great. And in fact, in 2019 or 18, actually, we were in fundraise process, and we met one of the company which has invested in 2024 in us. They did not invest back then in 2018-19, but we were in touch. And they mentioned when they were investing in 24, that Ankit, do you remember what was the EBITDA you were making in 2018 when you were growing 200% plus? I said, I don't recall because I'm making a lot of money. Huh? When you make money, you don't count. And I was surprised. I first time knew that we were making 35% EBITDA. I was like, wow, I didn't know I was making crores and crores. And then suddenly something happened, then we started draining money like anything. So PMF, or let's say getting into a market, it will be on your face. You will know exactly it is working. When it is not working, keep on figuring out what is not working. At some point you'll say it's working, you just double down. So I think that happened to us in mattress industry.
Very interesting. I think learning for me there is just like ignorance is bliss sometimes.
So being an idiot,
Yeah,
living in a fool's paradise,
not knowing too much.
not knowing too much. What's next?
Lucky.
Don't do an MBA. Don't do an MBA. Don't go to
In
college.
fact, when I was when you were asking, I said, thank God I didn't do it. मेरे से कैट हुआ भी नहीं था यार. It's very difficult.
इनसे भी किसी से कैट नहीं हुआ. जो है वो है.
I'm almost rethinking the fact that we do so many one-on-ones to validate ideas. Like how much of that is going to be like overall, helpful, not helpful. Because sometimes if not knowing is the secret, then might as well progress. But one of the things interesting that you've done over the period of time, right? Like you introduce these like new things, right? Like the 100-day return, no questions asked policy. Then a lot of these like different type of mattresses, right? I'm assuming that in 2014, an average customer was not asking you like, give me an orthopedic mattress, give me like, these different types of varieties. They were just like, they didn't know enough, right? But you've introduced all of these different categories, a lot of product innovation, a lot of this customer change you've seen. Talk us through some of those maybe strategic decisions along the way that you've taken that help you expand the shouting PMF.
So I think the moment you know early success, which is called PMF, then you know that it's working for you. Obviously, you have to scale, double down, all of it. But I think this is madness, right? So once the magic happened, continues to happen. This is just working. But there's a method to madness, which I discovered in this last 9 years. Obviously, first 5 years, I was just extremely unhumble. I would be like very pale thing at times. But when this bad times came, like 2 times bad times came in Wakefit, like they made me extremely humble, and then I started appreciating processes. The whole game probably today, as I speak, is about being consistent. You have to be consistent at doing whatever you are very good at as a company, as a business. You just can't ignore the fact that what gave you success will not give you success tomorrow unless you're consistent with what you are doing. So it's very important. Second, in the process part, consumer hearing, I think all of you will appreciate in your respective domains. So hearing consumers and acting on them is almost equal part as like PMF, because consumers most of the time will tell you what is working, what is not working. In fact, first few 100 videos which I made in YouTube on, let's say 2015-16, I went all of these consumers, and then they told me as simple things as I could never imagine. So back then when I was making mattresses, I used to pack it in a SDP bag, which is a bori, white color bori that you must have seen, right? And one of the customer, when I was interviewing, he said, I thought ये कोई second class mattress है जो मैंने second hand किसी दुकान से खरीदी है. It doesn't look like a branded mattress. And suddenly that small feedback made me say, oh boss, if I don't work on packaging, I'm going to be considered a second class, mattress brand. Somebody said, I don't know how to use this mattress. Why don't you tell me? I was like, how should I tell you how to use a mattress? Yeah, you don't know how to use a mattress. Then I kept on thinking, yeah. Then I said, oh shit, people don't know. Like they're thinking like a LG washing machine, let's say. You don't know how to wash, yeah, so you expect somebody to tell you. Then a dish TV setup, you don't know how to set it up. You got a laptop back then, like when we were kids, right? Laptop kaise chalayenge yaar, nahi pata main. So people have expectations. When I learned this, then I built a process where I call customers to explain them how to use a mattress, what to do with a mattress, what to not do with a mattress, and things like that. All I'm saying, if you put together is this, there's a method, there's a process. Keep building those methods and processes. Be consistent with those processes and methods. Just can't forget it. And third point is probably around, you call it a moat or or you can call it, founders' superpower. These more superpowers are yours. I don't think that any employee or co-founder or a C-suite or a VP can bring into a company. You should, as all of you become a founder one day, entrepreneurs one day, you should remember that you are given by God some superpower that you won't realize until it works, and the world will also realize. But you would know at the core of it what you're good at. Just make sure that you don't lose that superpower. Keep on executing your superpower. I think it will overpower everything else that is there in the company. So I think these three things, which is, I think I will not repeat, but but if you follow this, there is a method to continue to be successful rather than sometime being successful.
Are there times that you have shut down categories because you've not been successful at them, or have you continued to try and find that PMF?
No, I think it takes a lot of courage to kill things which are very. It's like a baby, Every business, every category within the business is like a baby because you dreamt saying, "Boss, ये तो होगा ही होगा यार." So you get very emotional about it, and because of you being emotional, you just can't let it go. So in our Wakefit's journey also, we have found so many categories that we failed miserably, but we still got hooked to it. But I think after a very, very long period of time, we realized it is better to just let go. But you should make an honest attempt. There's no doubt about it, because if you kill certain categories and you're not emotional about it, that's also a bad sign. You should kill it when you believe it. You should not kill it because somebody's saying it. But we killed it.
Can we go back to your 0 to 1, right? And how did you take the first step in terms of hiring people, in terms of your first product, in terms of your first GTM, in terms of what were your firsts like? Because a lot of us are going to go through that journey.
Yeah. I'll start with what I will do differently. Let's say if I have to start Wakefit again, I had an opportunity of the wisdom of what I can.
Correct.
Right? I will be extremely crazy about the kind of people that I hire. I'll be extremely crazy. Like, this is a mistake I've heard from many of the founders also when I made this mistake. A lot of times in speed, in pressure, with a lot of money exposure, with a lot of fundraise, people tend to make this mistake of hiring people just because they want to hire. They go to college, hire hundreds of them. Or let's say go to any company, pay a random paycheck, hire them. So you should not do that. But at the same time, when you're doing a 0 to 1, there are 2-3 things which are very important. One, you will go through an emotional sinusoidal curve, extremely high emotional sinusoidal curve, to a point that every day you'll be judging yourself, you'll be judging your idea, and you'll be judging everyone out there in the world, right? And sometimes you'll be at your peak saying, boss, मैं तो खत्म ही कर दूंगा market. And sometimes you'll be like, boss, मैं पैदा ही क्यों हुआ था, कुछ नहीं हो पा रहा, right? So you need somebody who can manage this for you, and anybody who's inside the business cannot manage this with you. Your co-founder can't manage because he's also going through this curve. So you need a friend. You need, if your family members are very close to you, can share things with them and they are very cool, them. Or you need professor or a mentor or whomsoever. Like, have that 1 or 2 guys whom you can openly cry down to. Like, you will shed a lot of tears. But you should have a person that you can openly shed your tears to. Right? Number 1. Number 2, the first few set of people have to be extremely dependent set of people. When I say extremely dependent set of people, you tell them and you forget about the work. And you trust them so much. Like, for example, when I started this factory, my first worker was my cook. When I was working, right, I made some salary. So we obviously had a cook. So that cook became my first labor. Cook ka mama became my second labor. And uska jija became third labor. And with these 3 guys, right, I still remember this, when we were making this mattress outer cover. It was the first time we were making a outer cover which has to be removable, because we realized when people sleep on mattresses, unhygienic ho jata hai. And these mattresses, you can't wash them. So we said, we'll make a cover, you can wash and put it back again. I said, you make this cover. 3 days that boy continued to make that cover. He can't just make it. And 3 days later, every day I was going, I was saying, ho jayega, karo. And 3 days later, he came back to me, he literally cried. भैया मुझसे नहीं हो पा रहा है. And then I said, okay, let's sit down. फिर उसको कुछ मछली खिलाई मैंने, उड़ गया था. So he उन्होंने भैया साथ में करूँगा. And I think it would take another 2 or 3 days and he was able to get down to it. But you need those people who are as worried as you are, who are as passionate as you are, and who are as dependent as you are in the company. I think these first set of people are extremely, extremely critical. And imagine this guy, maybe I was paying 13,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees. And by the way, when I had to hire this guy, right, he took my interview. The cook took my interview and he said, boss, मेरे को पहले फैक्ट्री दिखाओ आप, कि ये फैक्ट्री रियल है, पागल बना रहे हो क्या? I took him in my car, convinced him, boss, यहाँ पे आएंगे, तेरे को खाना भी दूंगा, पानी भी पिलाऊंगा, चिंता मत करना, I will. No, I had to sell him. So to a point that when you realize, right, irrespective of whether he's a friend or a senior or a junior or a labor, you have to do a lot of convincing because they are going to take more amount of risk. There is no disproportionate income for him. He'll make 14,000 to 16,000 to 18,000. Like nothing is changing his life, but he's taking risk. So he has to be sold first. But I think you need those guys whom you can rely on.
I have a question on this. That, like, is it that you find these people like diamond in the rough by chance, or is it that can you create those people by empowering them, by creating a good culture, by setting an example? Which of the two?
I think, and I can be fully wrong because I don't think I've built a great team and culture. I'm on the process of, because I've learned so much, so I'm learning now and then implementing things. But what I've seen is that when you as an entrepreneur are talking to people, you automatically pass on your energy to them. Automatically, you don't realize this. And when you're passing that energy to them, right, they're constantly getting recharged every day, every moment, every time you're talking. So it just happens to be natural that first 15 to 25 set of people you'll have now, they'll be hardcore lovers of you. They'll do and die for you.
So direct connect.
It's a direct connect. But the moment you have an 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, then it becomes a part of a process. How do you build a culture? How do you, enable people? How do you hear their problems and stuff like that? I think that is yet weird. So I would like to restrict myself saying, I've not fixed that problem yet. But the first 25 people, you have to spend a lot of energy with them. And then it automatically happens.
In a way, you make them dependable because you rub off your energy to them.
Yes.
Right? It's not that you have to find those people. यार वो मिल नहीं रहा मेरे को.
No, it's very automatic.
हाँ, वो आपसे ही बनेगा बंदा.
Yeah, correct. And it has to be somebody whom you trust. So, like for example, if you hire random labor out there in the market and say, boss, factory तुम चला देना. You don't have a connect. So you need that basic connect. There's a cook. I know every day he comes. So you have some connect.
Yeah, I think this is like very, very, lightning because so many of these are like intuitive, yet when you put it into context, just really helps. One thing I was wondering, right, like as consumers, we only get to see the flashy stuff.
Any part of the business, where building logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, product development, technology, you would realize that if you get into it, most of the learnings will actually help you shape the business better. Don't go into business with an assumption.
And abhi bhi we are seeing the end journey, 10 years in the making, 1,000 crores, and now everything is like hunky dory. One of the things that we miss to see is like, yaar, operations kaise hote hai company ki, right? Like, and this is a hardcore, like you're saying, factory floor setup karna pada, haath se banaya, literally the mattress. Can you talk to us about everything apart from the customer, everything apart from the front facing stuff? What happens in the back door? Because a lot of the empathy that I'm also trying to gain is like, how do founders get their hands dirty? Jo bolte hai, right? Like, we'll get into the rough, we'll get the work done. What is that side of the business?
I hear this a lot of time. Management fund of saying you should find dependable people, build them, enable them, move on to the next problem. And I don't think I've been so lucky yet that I've been able to do so. By saying that, I feel that some people in the management mention that in order to be successful, you have to be hands off and work largely on culture and people problems and let the professional do most of the work. I was slightly different. My personal learning is that, you can't build businesses with some people, those who are very great at it. I think you need that emotional, connect every time when you are, working with somebody. And hence, if you have to be emotional, you have to be very, very hands-on. In fact, even today, I think I spend a lot of time in every function of the company. A lot of time means literally a lot of time. My generally schedules are so jam-packed that sometimes I don't realize that evening ho gayi hai, morning ho gayi. I'm sure many of you would also go through this phase, but this happens daily. So you need to be extremely hands-on. And by being hands-on, from an outside world, when you're not an entrepreneur, you feel like, "Yar, ye kya kar raha hai?" Well, you should ideally have a marketing guy doing marketing for you, a production guy doing production for you, product guy building product for you, and tech guy building tech for you, right? But they're really good at doing one thing. But as a founder, right, your job is to stitch everybody together to what you really want to aim for. So hence, what becomes important is for every function that you want to know, you need to go to the depth of that function and make sure that you are able to learn this and implement across and stitch across the different sections of the work. So, but it's very dirty. I think it just, like for example, I built this very large factory in furniture. I had spent about 1.5 years. So it's a little bit funny. So I have an electric car. So generally how I move myself, because I know I have a friction, I don't want to be at places. So whenever I opened factory, I changed my charging point to that factory. So I knew by default I have to go there. So it's a little bit trick to yourself, but I knew it. If I'm sitting there, I would know many problems that the factory is facing. I would know many problems that the function would go through, and then eventually spend time. By the way, this is also a very big learning I have had. When you are working with almost every department, and you're working with those set of people who are building things for you, you get to identify a lot of raw talent which is out there working for you, and then you eventually become dependable on them. So for me, next 10 set of leaders I've already identified from the ground, because I knew that the amount of energy, and by the way, these guys they have extremely high skill set than me in that their respective function, but extremely high amount of ownership that almost equal to mine, and extreme amount of humility, or let's say whatever characteristics you share as a founder. Like some founders are some type, some founders are some type. So whatever frequency that works, right, you're able to find them. And I think these are the guys who will actually be your C-suites and VPs in future, and who will help you become 10x or whatever you're today. So for me, this going back end, doing a lot of work makes you hands-on, stitch things together, identify those people in next 4 to 8 years, get them to become the co-founders or CEOs of your business units.
We should also open it up to questions from the audience as well, because we have limited time. Right, go ahead.
Sir, my name is Ankit Sharma. So, hello from one Ankit to another.
Hello.
So, we just do not have a name similar. My journey has also been very similar to yours. I started my first venture when I was working at Goldman Sachs. And then again, I failed in that venture in the 7 to 8 months. So, very similar journey. And so, I wanted to understand from your perspective, how did you navigate through that challenge when the first one did not work for you?
I had a close school friend. So basically, you need that guy, right, whom to cry on the shoulders with, and he was also very patient. I remember calling him every day 2 times, 2 hours long chats. I think the only way to get out of this is just talk, express, let it go. Eventually, in this process, you will get to know that the time is done. Let's move on. I think that's the only way to do it. Whether it's a friend, family, anybody.
What was that business? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was a B2B foam manufacturing business. In fact, because of that business, I realized I will never do B2B in my life.
B2B foam.
B2B foam.
What is foam used for in B2B?
Foam for car seats, for things like that.
Very interesting. Someone had their hand up. Yeah.
Hi, sir. First of all, thank you for the insightful session. We all know you had a long day. I have a logistical question. We all are doing a drop shipping challenge here where we have an online store set up and we send our products directly to the customer. Now, Mattress in itself is a very bulky product. On top of that, you set up a system of 100 rate, no questions asked, free return. How did you manage to de-risk that the customer would not misuse this offer and take your mattress and return it again?
Good question. See, the problem with in human is we all are an outcome of a fear. Right? We all try to survive every day. In fact, I'm just putting randomly, you are all here because you feel if you do this course, you will get better future, right? Otherwise, you would never do this. So all of us are products of fear. Something has happened. Let's say, for example, people are scared of bombs because one time something got bombed somewhere, and then everybody thinks, I should not be in this place, I should not go there, that blah blah blah, right? When you're trying to, let's say, disrupt the whole ecosystem, what you got to do is you need to believe that what is the bigger value out of it. Like, for example, if I'm offering 100 days trial period, the whole intent was I knew that people can't really test out the mattress in a showroom. Like, in fact, the lady can't sleep in the showroom generally and then can make out for the mattress. The gentleman generally only ends up sleeping for that too 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? You can't make out. So the greater problem solvers, can you really make them comfortable to sleep on their piece, spend some nights and then take a call, right? That is one. Second, because what I mentioned about like people get afraid and there is some fear which is always working in back of our mind. We also had this problem. We thought that, India mein to gadbad ho jayega. If I give this mattress, I'm sure they'll use it for shadi, return it back, or some guest will come, they'll use return it back. But you won't believe this. There are almost everybody is a good person out there. In reality, 99% of the people who will buy products from you are really good people, good consumers who would return your product because they don't like it. And obviously, if you're a fool, you're giving some random, let's say for example, random usage, like you can use a shoe, go to a shadi and come back, and then nobody can stop, right? Basically, you are allowing them to misuse your policies. But most of the customers are genuine. Only 1 or 2% customers are ingenuine. for which you have to bake in the P&L and move on in your life. Because your larger problem in the world is to fix the problem, not to worry about that 1-2%.
What is the return percentage, if you don't mind?
So return percentage is because of misuse is less than 1%.
Hi, Ankit, this is Siddhant here. Good evening. I guess, aligning to this question itself, there was one other initiative that you did that after using the Wakefit pillows, you can always exchange it for a certain amount of time that came along. So, how did that business strategy pan out to you? Because it was for a limited period, but then again, it was pretty much beneficial for the existing users, and I guess retention really increased after that. So, how did that come along to you, and what was the striking point? Because you were the first ones to do it.
Oh, I didn't know many are doing it.
Not
Achha, okay. So what happened is we started retail about 2 years ago, and I think first showroom came up in Lucknow. 18 months journey now. And when we did retail, we figured out a lot of consumers we were acquiring online, getting them offline. They're transacting offline. A very few were organically discovering the showroom offline and then transacting offline. If let's say we didn't had online, we would have closed the offline thing. It is only working because online is working, then offline is working, right? But then we realized that if we just continue to depend on online, we have actually created one more OPEX. Rental, people, electricity, maintenance, blah, 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 right? All these. But if you're not adding value, then you have a problem. So the problem came out is, how do we bring consumers to our retail stores? Now bringing consumers to a retail, you again go through the retail online journey. Then again you have CAC and all of these, but then it doesn't make sense. So what we did is we started thinking of how do we do BTL from a thought point of that we are measured, because we being an online company, everything is measured from funnels to traffic to CAC to conversion to retention to AOV to everything, right? Everything you were, I'm sure you would also go through this journey. But when you're doing this overall journey, you wanted to make sure that everything is measured. So hence we said, we will not go after traditional BTL. Like for example, we will not put a billboard. We will not put an ad in a newspaper because you just can't measure who's watching. And of course, there are ideas saying put a QR code in a billboard. Who cares, yaar? Who's caring about your billboard saying you will scan and they say, okay, oh, I noticed your billboard, right? In fact, newspaper, nobody cares as a consumer. So there is no way for us to identify how do we attract at a lower cost walk-ins to a showroom. So then we said, let's build this BTL function from a perspective of ROI. And then everything we did was around saying, can we find hacks? This was one of the hacks that worked for us, where we said, exchange your old pillow, get a new pillow. A lot of people came and then we started measuring it. So it is a function of you being very clear what goal are you chasing. We were very clear that we don't want retail customers walk in again happening through that online CAC, because then you're not serving the purpose of the offline. Offline has to work offline. So we got a lot of walk-ins. I think first we were also very surprised. We got 1 lakh walk-ins. Yeah, that was amazing.
So you bring your old pillow and you get a discount on the new one.
Almost, yeah. So new one is almost like 200 rupees. So it's almost like a zero value.
But then your idea is that hopefully he'll purchase other stuff while he's in the store.
Yeah, so they do. Retail job is to bring walk-in, and then retail inside job is to convert. Like the job in walk-in to conversion, 2 different problems.
So thank you so much for focusing a lot on like humility as an aspect. It's super underrated in the startup ecosystem, I feel, when you're building a venture. I want to understand market segmentation in the mattress category. When you look at rentals versus the unorganized market and you look at the second-hand use market. Like for example, mattress is a very body adaptive product, right? So when someone uses it, to resell it is a challenge. A, how do you tackle that? B, what is the scope for the rental segment here? And see, in the unorganized market, how big is it and how would you differentiate yourself? Because you bring knowledge to or awareness of the product to the market. So how does these 3 segments?
The rental segment in Mattress is generally used for shadi or some big ceremonies that are happening. We have seen that people are very okay when the movement, they have to spend a night for a day or so. So Indian customers, at least the TG that we have, all the large gatherings, which are public gatherings, which are let's say 500 to 1,000 people, the economics doesn't work out when you're giving a new product, and because the way that they use it, right, it will be on the floor, and a lot of parties will be happening. So this product is gone, so zero value. So it doesn't work out. So people find out, people have got cotton mattresses that are very cheap. So this segment, obviously, TG is same, but from a value add perspective, it doesn't return the investment that you will do on the business. So we have stopped that. Plus, second, in order to make sure that after 5 years or 10 years, let's say people are using the product, and then they want to buy a new product, what should they do with that product? We have recently started a program of exchange of mattresses. In this exchange of mattresses, we take the mattress back, obviously give some money against that mattress, and then we dissect it, and we are following the circular economy route where everything is dissected, given for refurbishment, so that it goes into the supply chain again. Please.
So you were speaking a bit about culture. And I recall about a year or so back, you had this policy where the employees could sleep between 2 to 30 minutes. That took my team by the storm because you were like, "ये कर सकते हो तो हम क्यों नहीं?" So how has that improved your culture, or like, are you still implementing that? And how effective is it to understand your team better and
Yeah, no,
the culture?
yeah, I don't think it was meant for culture. It was a PR stunt, and it definitely got us a lot of eyeballs. People noticed it. But by the way, we block 2 to 2:30 in every Wakefit's employee calendar. It is blocked permanently. If they choose to not participate, it's their will. But people end up working. It was a marketing.
You heard about it, so it was successful clearly.
So you should not let your team go.
Hi, sir. I saw there's this categories that you are incorporating AI into the mattress space. So how does this idea came up? Was it consumer insights, or just because AI is coming everywhere? How
Yeah.
turned out?
Are you raising another round?
No, yeah, I'll be very honest in this. There were a lot of competition who came in the market. We could not react. Let's say about 3 years ago, some competition came, we could not react. Then 1 year ago, some competition came, we could not react. Because we were focusing on some other categories to fix. Then when we got back to reality, saying, okay, let's work on this. So we started with Mattress, got into furnishing, then furniture. Furniture took a lot of bandwidth of ours. So Mattress actually was given 10% of our time, 90% of the time was going in building furniture. And then we realized in these 2-3 years, some companies came, and then we allowed them to come and get disrupted ourselves. But then we started figuring out what is happening in the Western world. Generally, a lot of innovation in India is adapted from there. And we saw there was a company in USA who was doing fairly well, and then we started incorporating some of the learnings from there, and we built this product. But from a knowledge sharing perspective, one of the investors asked me, the current investor, he asked me saying, "Do you want to be the innovators, or you want to be the copy? You want to create the copies of the innovation?" Well, I think after a lot of thought, I said, good question, because as a company, you should know, right, whether you are a company known for innovation or you're a company who just copy everything. So my answer was, we are a fast follower of successful innovation. What does it mean? It means that whatever is happening around the world, we want to make sure that eyes, ears, mouth, everything is open to absorbing this. And whenever you see there's something working, how do you adapt to make it suit to your requirement? So Sense was an outcome of thinking that something is working in the Western world. Number one. Number two, we realized that a lot of rings, smartwatches, everybody was talking about the sleep score. Like in our people across, there sleep. In fact, in one of the interview, I was spoken to 6 guys, and one guy only mentioned in the interview saying my sleep score is 96. So this is, you have to pick up trends. Like when we picked up, this is also a trend. So it makes just 100% sense saying people are just tracking sleep today, but eventually they say, how do I improve it? And that's where mattresses come in very handy, and then they start moving that.
Because they know all the traction for those.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I think when we launched Zen series, we got about 1 million views.
1 million?
1 million views.
Views?
Yeah, on our web. I mean, traffic came to our.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And a lot of engagement.
Mm.
We did a lot of pre-bookings also. Obviously, can't disclose the numbers now, but a lot of excitement. In fact, we are desperately waiting every day. How do we think about V2, V3 versions of this product? Because this product is very adaptive. Every quarter, you will have an upgrade on this firmware.
Just to quickly double click on this, like how, like this health trend, is it a very like tier 1, 5 million, top 5 million phenomena, or is it actually very real? Because in the US, like I think you're mentioning about 8 Sleep, if I'm not wrong, this is the famous company which made this happen. But in India, with all of the companies trying to really double down on health, does it feel like a very like scalable, massy company building journey, or is it one of those things which is like, overhyped?
See, think of it in a couple of ways. Like for example, obviously sleep tracking is cool. You're not tracking sleep, it's cool, right? If you ask some of us, like, do you stop watching Netflix beyond 9 o'clock? Most of them will say no, but you are monitoring your sleep. So it's just cool that people are doing it. But there are a lot of added advantages. Like, for example, this Zen series that we have created, it can manage temperature from 6 degrees to, let's say, 40 degrees. So when the extreme winters are there in Delhi, so at that point in time, we have all gone through this journey where we put up a heater, and there are always chances of shocks, heat, fire hazards are there. Plus, your rooms are always closed, so you can never breathe properly. So, a lot of issues are. So, it can improve that for sure. Second, during summer's time, you can literally switch off your AC, which is going to pay you 3,000 to 4,000 rupees of rental, and you can get away with 500 rupees rent. Electricity cost that will come with the Zen series. Third, we are also working on a lot of innovation which is going to be towards real usage of AI. One is with this, we built a lot of data algorithms and there's a lot of AI ML work happening in the backend where we are going to monitor your sleep stages, REM sleep, deep sleep, snoring sleep, snore time, movement time. Imagine like wake up in the morning and you see how many times you tossed and turned in the night, how many times you moved, your body was very, like you were not very settled in the night when you were sleeping. So this all puts down to saying what is the sleep score. But when we do this temperature control can actually infect by minute percentages every stages, which can actually give you, so the saying is, if you sleep for 8 hours and get a, let's say, recovery, can I make sure that I give it to you in 730 hours, like 10 hours, 30 minutes. So add 30 minutes more to your life. That is very big. Like if you can add 30 minutes to your life, 1 hour more to your life, because everybody wants to maximize more amount of time that they have with their, like nobody wants to sleep, right? Unless you are very bored in life. Otherwise, you generally want to work more and more and more, or do whatever you like more and more and more, right? So how do we enable that? And there are some elements we are building around health where I'm not sure whether this is the right platform to mention or not, but can I, let's say, predict a heart attack? You're not able to breathe properly. So can I create alarm systems where
Sleep apnea. Whatever.
sleep apnea is obviously, like, for example, with, oldies we have 60 years old, 65 years old. You're always sensitive to what is happening, would they be able to make a call or not? But can we create this ecosystem where, auto alerts will come to us and then we can react to it before time comes?
So like, is the future of Wakefit more AI or more home furnishings?
I think this is a question constantly debated in the boardroom. But I think we found a piece saying, I think all these categories are very independent of each other. So we have been trying to link saying, how do we pass on the brand from just mattresses to furniture to decor? It just happens to be that mattress will continue to remain the core phenomenon where a lot of work will happen on R&D front. Furniture is a different problem statement, aesthetics, looks, quality, strength, stuff like that. Both will continue dependent. I think that's why we are going to have, in fact, we are doing the reorg of the entire company, breaking into 2-3 companies. I think one company will do this, another company will do this.
Because the KPIs are, the product definitions are very different.
Very different.
Sir, thank you so much for taking this session for us. So my question is, sir, the mattress industry, furniture industry, they are all manufacturing heavy industries. And since you were telling like your first startup failed and you saved a little bit of savings and all, so I just wanted to understand your journey. Like how did you went on to get your first funding, first investment for this, and how did you get into such manufacturing heavy industry? Like we also think about getting or starting doing something like this.
Yeah.
If you could just help us with your journey, how did you make sure and how did you do that?
Sure. So the problem is, I'll start with this. I read this in one of the books, and it says, what you don't know, you don't know. It's as simple as that. Like, for example, what I don't know, I just don't know what I don't know. So the problem is, when people think of manufacturing as manufacturing, there are a lot of things that you don't know what happens in manufacturing, right? And classic examples are, a lot of innovation can happen when you know what to do. Let's say you're working on a startup of selling flower pots, and then you happen to outsource the manufacturing to someone else. Now the whole know-how of what is happening in the industry, right, remains to that guy who's doing manufacturing, because he's talking to the ecosystem, he's visiting fairs, he's talking to vendors, he's doing the innovation, line failures and stuff like that. So all the innovation which can happen in manufacturing, which can link to your product or tomorrow can build a moat. If you start looking at that from lens, manufacturing becomes a solution to your problem instead of becoming a problem in your solution, right? So for us, let's say we were the first one to do a roll pack. What gentlemen are saying, how such a large mattress, how did you deliver and all of that, right? We were able to compress roll pack. Now it comes in a small cylinder size. The large king size mattress comes in a small cylinder size. Why? Because we were manufacturing and realized, how do we solve this problem? And then, we just continue to do something, and this just happened. But if we were not manufacturing, I don't think that we would have understood that this is possible. So a lot of innovation happens there. So look at it from any part of the business, where building logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, product development, technology, you would realize that if you get into it, most of the learnings will actually help you shape the business better. Don't go in the business with an assumption. Try to learn this. If it doesn't work in favor of yours, maybe then get out and find a strategic partner who's going to fill it up for you.
So what about the investment part, initial investment part?
Yeah, so as I said, 35% EBITDA business, growing with 200%. We even don't know why did we raise. In fact, now at that point in time, we raised our first round Series A. We did it because we thought somebody else should not be able to raise. We should be the first one to raise. So it was a FOMO.
I think his question is also the first factory you built. How did you finance that?
But generally, Mattress factories are very easy to build. You do a lot of jugaad, yaar. It's very easy.
Foam kharidna hai.
Very easy, yaar. In fact, many of the businesses that we do are very easy.
If you want to share it, I'm more than happy.
Please don't open up a mattress startup. Very difficult.
Our cousin basically, who's a wholesaler and a retailer in a mattress business, and basically, as I understand, the market is very local. A lot of local vendors and it's still unorganized. What would be a forecast for these local businesses in the future, and how do you think they can grow and change?
If you look at the segmentation of consumers, many consumers today in the mattress segment or the sleep segment they think of mattress as mattress. They don't think of mattress as sleep. Mattress is a means to close your eyes and wake up in the morning. Everything else that is happening in your night, you're least bothered what you're sleeping on. So when a decision from a consumer perspective is taken from a very low quality value add in your life, then you will always find people fighting for pricing. And how will they compete on pricing? Being very, very crude in terms of cutting corners in product, cutting supply chain cost, and be very efficient as well at the same time, right? Just not cutting corners on the product. They will also be efficient in building the supply chain from a perspective that I don't have fixed cost or inflated warehouses and stuff like that. They'll figure out MTOs instead of MTAs and things like that, right? So they are very efficient. So in my view, there is a world of consumer who really believes in the quality of sleep or the life that they should lead, and hence find out the product which suits them. There's a consumer who doesn't believe in the quality of life related to a quality of mattresses. They just buy it as a product which they need to have because they can't sleep on a cot directly. I think both businesses will continue to thrive. Both businesses, there'll be shift of consumers from here to there or there to here. Depends on how the economy is. Like today, there is a constraint and people are not spending a decent amount of money. People are a little bit conservative when it comes to spending money. So this side of business is growing very well, which is these local dealers and retailers. But back when in 21, 22, in fact, until 19, 20, 21, we saw this branded behavior was very, very nice. So I think economy keeps on moving, depends on how much liquidity is there in the market, how much education that people have that whether this mattress can actually impact the sleep quality of them. So it will continue to, I think, coexist.
Can you double click a bit on that and share like your customer profile, right? Like, I mean, you could assume that like a 20-25K mattress is being bought by, let's say, people in the top 10 cities. You probably have a household income beyond a certain point. But what is your split like? Just broad numbers to help us envision the ideal like Wakefit customer.
Sure. So we did this research and then we have been always asked this question of saying from a marketing perspective, what is your TG? And when we looked at our customers, right, some of the top class VCs are our customers. Some of the top business families are our customers. And auto wala is also my customer because I remember back then when I used to manage auto, right? They still call me, bhaiya discount dila do. I want to buy a mattress. I said, meri kyun bari sasti? I want to buy your mattress, right? So all the range from driving an auto to driving a Merc, right? All of these customers exist. Then we said, who's my customer? When we kept on doing this research, we realized there is a psychographic profile who's my customer, right? So the customer is, who's smart, who wants to take a very educated decision, who would not come in the jhansa of marketing, who would understand where to get the double comfort on, let's say, by reading reviews or by, let's say, talking to someone else or taking consultation with someone else, who takes a very informed and educated decision as our customer, irrespective of whatever money that, this customer makes. But anybody who's very conscious about the decision thing is my teaching.
You guys were laughing because of Bhupesh. Yeah, that's I got it.
Who's Bhupesh?
Bhupesh is our marketing professor.
Achha.
And he, I think, drills down this aspect that don't look at demographic, but look at the psychographics.
Hi, sir. I think I really connect with this segmentation that you gave. I've actually bought a mattress before, and from that anecdote, I actually had a question. So when I was looking at buying it, I was moving out for the first time independently, and my parents said that, "Oh, Sleepwell ka le lo. That's a known brand." The second concern that came forward was, how you measure the dimensions. 1 inch bhi bada ho gaya to dikkat hoga. And the third thing was actually something that, even I felt for a second, that since there's this 100-day return thing, how do you look at the hygiene aspects and how do you ensure that your customer feels that, okay, I'm not getting like a return piece? That's the way it is in apparel.
So your question is?
So, sir, do you actually see this behavior? How do you counter this at Wakefit? And how common?
Oh yeah. So in fact, I was reading this book today while I was flying. This book mentioned about habits. Basically, our mind tries to optimize for just one core thing: security. The security can be financial, real, whatever, right? Everything else which comes in the path of being unsecure, they just remove it. So anything which has to take a lot of processing of, like कि मेरे को उधर जाके मैं गूगल करूंगा, फिर मैं कुछ यूट्यूब पे वीडियो देखूंगा, फिर मैं ये करूंगा, फिर मैं unless there is an extreme amount of goodness. Like for example, our product is 40% cheaper than these brands while being at similar or better quality, right? So then people are willing to take that, क्या चलो effort मारते हैं, there seems something working. But most of the customers ना today work from the perspective of saying, boss, I want to optimize for my life. So I think the parents are also coming from that point कि boss यार 5,000 बचा के क्या करेगी, यही कर ले, right? So they will continue to exist. It's just that, as life stage moves, as they go through experiences, as they talk about more brands, I think we also believe that eventually, we will find a better place in terms of the market share. In fact, in the last 9 years, we've gone to about being the number 2 company in the entire India, online, offline put together. That's also a big, move that has happened to us.
And so, what about the perception of the used mattress?
See, used matters, it basically gets taken care when you're building a great brand. I think there are promises that you have to deliver. Like when every mattress is being built, whether do you have standard QC systems. In fact, for example, if you end up sending a mattress which let's say has a, dag, people would first think that boss kisi ka aa gaya, right? Even if you're not doing it. So I think you as a brand have a lot of promise to fulfill. In those promises, you will have to invest in a lot of systems which will ensure that you talk to consumers, what you deliver, what you speak, everything has to be coherent. So it's a job of a brand, and as a brand, I think there's a lot of responsibility which you have to just live with.
Guys, I think on that note, we'll have to wrap up. I have one last question, which is: do you sleep looking up, looking down, left or right? What is the right way? Not what you do. What's the right way?
I think sleeping on your left side is always the right way to sleep.
Did everyone know that? Oh shit! Okay. No, but on that note, thank you so much, yeah, for coming.